All right, texting 123. Texting 1 2. This is the dog. This is the dog bringing you the 13th episode of the Dog Wars. Why they named it the Dog Wars, I never knew. Only because I'm the narrator. I mean, I didn't participate in the Dog Wars. I was ashamed of the man. I didn't know the man was. I did not know the man was smart enough to prosecute a war, let alone cruel enough to engage in all the tactics that you'd have to engage in to, you know, what I'm saying, fight a war. It's disgusting. But anyways, in this 13th episode, the man hires big poor Dolores to kill over texting Sally, but then, ironically, he steps in himself to kill over texting Sally. He taps Dolores out, steps in himself to kill over texting Sally, even though it's against his morals and he swore he would never kill a woman. There was a bunch of women he should have killed. He never killed one of them. He released them. He gave them like a bag of money as he said goodbye. This poor over texting Sally, she must have got in the man's craw because he stepped in. And I don't know why he stepped in. Maybe it was because he thought, if I step in, it'll be better for over texting Sally because she has to die anyways. But, maybe it'll be a little bit better on her if I do the killing. But he stepped in, but he started torturing her. He started torturing because over-texting Sally was the one who got him stabbed between his ribs, and he got his left lung punctured, and he was down to his last 4 or 5 breaths when the doctors finally got to him, the EMTs or whoever it was. Somebody got to him, and they were like, "Oh my God, you got 6 breaths left." He's like, "I got 3 breaths, you stupid bastard," and they finally saved him. But anyways. But as he's torturing over texting Sally and he's getting ready to kill her, he explains to her that he already painted his masterpiece. In other words, he already did the torture thing, as good as it could be done. And over texting Sally's like, "What? What the hell? I mean, you're torturing me right now," which I don't want to get into how he tortured her. He broke out these battery, jumper cables, and he was going to pin them on her nipples or maybe even her clitoris. I don't even know. Instead, he pinned them. He pinned them on her, whatever it was. I forget, her ear. I think that was what he pinned because he didn't really want to torture her. He just had to say, "You got to be tortured. You almost killed me. I barely survived. You sent an assassin." Plus, the assassin could have killed all my loved ones, whatever. It doesn't matter. Maybe the assassin would have killed my dog. And I was like, I perked up. I was like, the assassin could have killed me? I'm an innocent bystander. And the man turned around and was like, "Hey, dog, sometimes there's, casualties of war. Innocent bystanders do get killed." I was like, holy shit. Maybe I was like, maybe take off that clamp off her ear and put it right on her nipple. But I was like, don't do that. That's disgusting. Don't do that. Leave the battery clamp on her ears. Anyways. The man was lamenting that he had already done his torture masterpiece because he had invented sewing your torture victims' mouths shut with cat gut. But, cat gut's is big enough to make a shoelace out of or to string a tennis racket. So anyways, you would sew the lips and then you would get a vanilla milkshake. And the man's like, "Dog, I would get a fucking vanilla milkshake." And it was cold and frosty and delicious. And this guy would be dehydrated. We had been slapping around for a couple days. He couldn't get nothing inside his mouth. It was sewn shut. And we would try to pry open and take a knitting needle or something or a dental instrument that we stole from the local dentist's office. And we would pry it open and stick the straw in there, so he suck some of this vanilla milkshake in. But as soon as he would try to get some of the vanilla milkshake in, we'd taunt him with it. We'd slap him. We'd take the straw out. If he got a little tiny taste of sugar, it would be enough for him. And we'd be like, "Holy shit, so what? You can't, you don't get no vanilla milkshake. Your mouth is sewn shut. The only choice you have is to, accept your death or tell us the information." But it didn't matter. We were going to kill him no matter what happened anyways. And we never gave him a sip of vanilla milkshake. That was the whole thing. If you gave him a sip of vanilla milkshake, it was like it defeated the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, the man, he's discussing as he's torturing with battery cables on her ears over texting Sally, which he had hired Big Poor Dolores to capture Sally. She was supposed to kill Sally, torture her a little bit, but kill her. But she was torturing her in really nasty ways. And the man's like, holy shit, this is not going to happen. He figured it out that he would have to step in to give over texting Sally the death that she deserved, with a little hint, a little garnish of torture. But, you know what I'm saying? She wasn't going to get tortured to death. Over Big Poor Dolores, she was an ugly woman. Over texting Sally was really hot. These were both women of the Fantastic 14 or the Sultry 7, or I forget what it was. After they took out over texting Sally, it became, it became, I forget what it was, the Sexy Six or something, and I forget what it was with this one. When they took out, over texting Sally, it dropped down to just 12 sets of boobs and 6 hot women. Anyways, Big Poor Dolores was hot, but she was jealous because she wasn't near as hot, because Big Poor Dolores had a stunning body, but she had a really fugly face, whereas over texting Sally had both the body and the face. So they had this thing, this rivalry. And so when the man went and said, hey, Big Poor Dolores, you got to go get over texting Sally, because over texting Sally turncoated on us like Benedict Arnold, and she became, our enemy. Big Poor Dolores was only too quick to jump in that. But the man, he saw what was going on. I think maybe Big Poor Dolores was probing too hard. Like, she was probing like a Martian that didn't know you shouldn't probe. Like a Martian, when they abduct a human into their space capsule and they start probing them. You're like, why? It's an orifice. Why? You couldn't be more gentle with an orifice like that? You couldn't. You thought you had to stick a rod in there? You had to stick something in there? It's an orifice. Maybe something comes out. Most of the orifices on the Earth, they come out. Maybe in Mars they go in, but you don't have to probe. You know what I'm saying? These Martians, they want to probe. And when they abduct somebody, turns out maybe Big Poor Dolores had some Martian there, because she was trying to probe. She was trying to really torture over. And the man was like, nah, Big Poor, this is not how you do it. Anyways, he laments the cruelty that Big Poor Dolores was inflicting on over texting Sally. Little girl dog, are you this is not appropriate. Can you please give me a minute? Anyways, the man, he was lamenting, the cruelty that was inflicted on over texting Sally by Big Poor Dolores. But then he was like, you know what? This is the kind of cruelty that's behind all elite fortunes. All the elites and their fortunes are based on abject, brutal, unconsequential cruelty. Cruelty to one human against another. I'm not going to repeat it. You just have to memorize that part of this take, because that's what it's all about. Anyways. And so he describes how, the man was like, in his mind, he was like thinking about how he had discovered sewing mouths shut and torturing people with vanilla milkshakes from Burger King. And, he's like, that's how it was done. I discovered that. I feel like, that was my masterpiece. The man was like, dog, I felt like, the reason I stepped in and told, Big Poor Dolores to step aside in episode 13 of The Dog Wars was because I was like, hey, this ain't what's going down. Even though as he stepped in, this is the first time he killed a woman, the man killed a woman. It was against his principles. He said, this is beyond the pale. Big Poor Dolores is taking out her aggressions, her insecurities. She's substituting, or whatever you say it would be, like where, over texting Sally's becoming the brunt of Big Poor Dolores's, little girl dog. I'm trying to do something here. You think you could give me a break? Little girl dog. Madam Yes is in town because the man was calling in Uncle Denner. He was calling in Madam Yes. The little girl dog's here. I'm your stupid dog. And I'm like, hey, little girl dog, maybe we'll go out to the Italian restaurant. We have a good time, but maybe you should be hushed up while I'm trying to do a takeover here. Don't worry about it. But anyways, This take is going to end episode 13, okay, of the Dog Wars, with the man deciding now, finally, over texting Sally's been torture enough. And big poor Dolores was like, holy shit, man, this ain't enough torture. This is a little bit of torture. You should be able to torture this woman a lot harder than that. This woman turncoated on you. She's the one who assassinated you. You were down. The man's like, I know, I was down on my last 3 or 4 breaths. I know, this is not guess. And it was really weird because the man, he doesn't believe in torturing or killing women, but he had to step in because he had hired big poor Dolores, knowing full well that she had an axe to grind against, over texting Sally, and this would get kind of ugly. And he said, no, over texting Sally, shit, no, we're not doing her this way. And big poor Dolores is like, you almost died, and why are you helping this woman? He's like, it's a thing. So in a strange, weird way, the man stepping in and killing him over and violating his own principles and his own code and killing over texting Sally himself, it was like a mercy killing. It was a mercy killing. And anyways, so what the man did, this is the cruel part of the whole thing. The man's like over texting Sally. He dismissed Dolores. He's like, Dolores, get the fuck out of here. And Dolores finally left. And over texting Sally finally breathed a sigh of relief. And the man positioned over texting Sally down on her knees with her hands tied behind her back. And he said to her, lift your chin up and say a prayer. And she's like, I don't pray. I'm an atheist. He's like, say a prayer. Find Jehovah. Get him in your mind. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, listen, let me help you. Proverbs 12:23. When a man, Proverbs 12:23, a man who stays silent and doesn't speak too much is better off than a man who boasts and starts running off at the mouth. And she's like, oh, wow, really? He's like, yeah. Does that ring a bell with you? She's like, yeah, my dad was always, and plus you were always run off. And the man's like, I know, I always run off at the mouth. It's a big problem I have. Anyways, he's like, so get your chin up in the air and like put your head backwards. And meanwhile, the man was taking out this giant sword with a razor sharp edge. It was some kind of Saudi Arabian execution sword or whatever. But if you ever saw Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and that one thing where they were trying to steal a bunch of valuables out of a cave in Saudi Arabia, and the guard, he would say a son chop, and he had this big curved sword, a big heavy sword. That's the thing, the sword was so heavy. It was like a maul. It was like for splitting wood. You could split iron with this thing. It was like 28, 30 pounds. The man could barely hoist it up above his head and hold it straight up. All he had to do was let it fall. He learned how to have a little extra hitch in his giddy up and to strike with the sword. But anyways, he told over texting Sally, look, to the nethersphere, look out into the open and just recite this psalm. And it was Psalm 12:23. You could look it up for yourself. Psalm 12:23. Anyways, it was like, the wise man keeps his yap shut, but, the fool blasts his foolishness all over everybody as if it was, like whatever say, like a shot in a porno video or something. It's like blasting over everything. It's foolishness. It's evil. Anyways, the man, while over texting Sally, was finally feeling comfortable. He's like, pick your chin up higher, honey, and tilt your head back a little bit more. He was getting ready to strike her with this giant Saudi Arabian sword on a san chop, vicious execution sword. And once she got about halfway through that proverb, reciting that proverb, he brought that sword down on her like the wrath of God, like Jehovah's justice. And he split her head open straight down to her neck and half of her, her breastbone. And it was really ugly. It was really disgusting. But this was episode 13. Over texting Sally was killed at the hands of the man, despite the man's vow to never kill a woman. He violated the vow because he thought it was like a mercy killing. He struck her in the top of her cranium. He split her head open. Half of her face and her head went one way. The other half went another way, like you were trying to shuffle a deck of cards. It was really disgusting, and it split right down. The blood coruscated up like it was a fountain. It was horrifying. It was so disgusting. The man himself got a splash of blood on his lip and he quivered. He's like, holy shit, And he started crying. He's like, I never thought I would kill a woman. I didn't think I could ever kill a woman. But, deep down he knew that was the only way that over-texting Sally was going to get out of this. It was like a mercy killing. Anyways, I'm a young stupid dog. And this is how fucked up and demented war can get. And this is about the dog wars, which was like a mafioso kind of war thing. But anyways, war, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'm a dog. I'm an Eeyore, stupid dog. I'm like, war, what is it good for? I don't know. It's all right. Don't worry about it. You should not even really try to figure out what any of this meant or anything about it. This is just like, don't delve too deep. Don't think about it too much. It's just, it is what it is. War is fucked up, so don't worry about it. It's okay, everybody.